Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and this is an insanely high damage bleed build, kind of a variant on the twin blade build that uses the Godskin Peelers, which seem to have a little bit of higher AR, or at least damage wise. The bleed build-up is similar, but it does a ton. I mean, between the AR and the bleed build-up, this is a high damage, super powerful build. We're going to go over stats, equipment, everything you'll need to know to make this awesome high damage build in Elden Ring. I recently did a twin blade build, and I did a bleed frost build as well. If you're into bleed frost, I'll leave that video in the description below. I'm going to leave a couple things in the description for you guys as I go throughout the video. But as you can tell here, we're on, I think, journey 4 or 5, somewhere in that realm. And yeah, Mog absolutely got destroyed. Wasn't even able to phase. Proc bleed a whole bunch on him with the jump attacks, and the damage for this is unreal. So as we go over stats and stuff, before we do that, I want to show you where to get a couple of things. Now, first things first, my last build was, well, 2 builds ago, I guess by now, was the fire build. If you want to check out this build, I'll leave this one in the description below, but I'm going to show you real quick where to get the Godskin Peeler. Now, you can get one of these per playthrough, and honestly, they're awesome. They're really, really good, obviously, together, just like the twin blades, kind of the same mechanic with jump attacks, and you just have to kill the Godskin, I believe it's Apostle, in the Atlas Plateau. I'm going to show you where it is on the map here. As you can tell, we obliterated him with the fire build, took a ton of damage, but here he is in the Atlas Plateau at Windmill Village, and he ends up dropping the Godskin Peeler for us. And again, it's 1 per playthrough, I believe. Awesome to get, though. If you can get a second one off a friend, forum, or anything like that, definitely wielding 2 of them is a lot more powerful. If you're wondering what you're staring at right now, yeah, this thing got stuck in a tree. I'm on Xbox, never seen this happen before. I needed a larval tear to respec, and this thing straight up jumped literally into a tree. I've never had that happen before. I thought it was funny, so I included it in the video before I go over a couple other items that I'm going to show here, and then show the insane damage that you can get with this build, going over a couple of different bosses, and kind of taking the weapons out in the field to do a whole bunch of damage as well. Next thing I want to show here is where to get the Raptor's black feathers. I know some people are curious as to where to get this. It is kind of an obscure item, but you get it in one of the caves that's in the Atlas Plateau. I'm going to show it on the map here, and it increases your damage when you do jump attacks. It's an awesome piece of armor that has a passive, increasing the damage and stacking with the Claw Talisman. And you can get this pretty much at the beginning of the mid-game. I'm going to show where this is on the map in the Atlas Plateau, not far from Abandoned Coffin Site of Grace. You just kind of go to the left, the west there. And as far as the Claw Talisman, you can get that very early at Stormville Castle. From the Rampart Tower Site of Grace, you go up the tower all the way to the very top where there's a couple of enemies. And don't mind me jumping in the wrong spot. I haven't grabbed this in a while. But yeah, you got to jump on the bags that are there, jump around here, and then I'm going to show you how to work around your way to get to the Claw Talisman, which is an awesome thing to have with this build because it also, like the Raptor's black feathers, stacks and will increase your jump attack damage. By the way, I wanted to mention real quick as I'm showing you where to get the Claw Talisman, if you're not subbed to my channel, definitely sub if you love overpowered PvE builds or if you love Elden Ring or From Software games in general. I've been doing a lot lately as far as the builds go. It's been a ton of fun. Definitely hit that subscribe button. And as we work around here, as you can pretty much watch where we went, it's not that far. It's just a couple of towers over, clear out the enemies, and at the end, we're going to go up the ladder, which is going to ultimately have the Claw Talisman, along with a bunch of, I think, eagles that end up just flying away, the birds or whatever. But yeah, get it in Stormville Castle. Not too late in the game. Can grab this very early. It's also awesome on strength builds as well. This is a very good talisman to have if you're a strength build or if you're doing a lot of jump attacks because the damage with it is actually pretty good and it's a great early talisman to have in general. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Now it's time to take this out in the field and do some massive damage. Now, these things are just like the twin blades in that the majority of the damage comes from how many times you're able to hit with jump attacks. I can't tell based on the animation whether it's 4 or 6 with these. I know with the twin blade it's 6, but it does do a lot of damage, and the majority of what you're going to get proccing-wise and damage-wise comes simply from just doing an excessive amount of jump attacks and getting the maximum amount of damage with the bleed procs, and honestly, it obliterates anything that's gonna be in your path. This is an awesome build. And it's always fun to do this with Margot, Morgott, and Mog. Speaking of the three, if you have any type of bleed build with these guys, your best bet is to use the shackle, and then you can pretty much destroy them afterwards. A lot of times they won't even be able to get up in time, or for Mog's case, go into phase, unless you're facing the one beneath the capital that's immune to bleed. The other three, with the shackles, take advantage of that, hit them like crazy with the jump attacks, and they're just going to go down very, very quickly. Now, as far as those guys go, they're very easy. The horseback guys, they take a lot of bleed. They have a little bit of resistance, but nothing like the dragons and the magma worm here. So we're going to go and we're going to attack something with better resistances, and that's the tougher magma worm in Consecrated Snowfield. Now, for the buffs, what we do is switch, and I'm on Xbox. I hit Y and L1 to switch to the other one, proc Seppuku, and then Y and R1 back to proc Seppuku on the original one. So you have it on both. Use Golden Vow, Blessings Boon, and Flame Grant Me Strength. All great buffs for this build. Make sure that you have both procced and that it's on both, so you get the innate bleed plus the additional bleed, so you can maximize your damage. And as you can tell here, even on Journey 4 or 5 or wherever at, with the tougher Magma Worm, who has some seriously stout resistances, probably 500 or 600 bleed resistance, takes a lot of damage. The bleed procs on him, it chunks his health like crazy, and honestly, it's just a really great, awesome build for PvE, and it's a lot of fun to do. So for equipment, we have the Godskin Peelers plus 25 on each, so the dex scales with a B, and we have the innate bleed on there with blood. We have the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Lord of Blood's Exultation, Claw Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, and then the consecutive attack, and then defense or Faith Tear if you want to save 10 levels for buffs. Now for my stats at 150, I'm mainly going here as the glass cannon, but you might want to put some more points into vigor. Main point though, definitely get Dex soft cap at 60. Arcane soft cap's a little sooner, so you can soft cap that at 40 and get a ton of bleed, ton of damage at 150. I like where my stats are at. You might want a little more in the vigor sense if you're not really rocking the glass cannon build, but for me, it's mostly PvE, so I don't care about that. I'm going to destroy anything that's in my way, so I'm fine with the vigor in that case. And no, that wasn't a brag at all by any sense or any means. This is just a very powerful build that can obliterate most things very quickly. So if you're not having long fights where it just goes on for a while and the odds are stacked, against you in those circumstances, in this, the odds are with you and you're going to destroy whatever you're facing very quickly. And as long as you do, for me, if it's a lot of PvE related stuff and it's not PvP, then as far as that goes, you're going to be fine with 40 vigor. Going the full glass cannon build actually works in that sense because you're going to destroy anything that's in your path. And as you can tell with NPC invaders and such, the jump attack damage and the damage in general, I wanted to show a couple clips here at the end of different things you can do. But as far as NPC invaders, if you're having a hard time with one or one particularly bothers you, this build is great for that. It completely destroys them. Very convenient for them. Yeah, you can utilize that very well for NPC invaders. And now for something else with stout resistances. So the Farum Azula dragon that's here, he's actually really tough. I don't know if anybody else thinks he's a very tough enemy, but he's just tough in general. For a mini boss, he's got a ton of HP, especially on the New Game Plus cycles and whatnot. So I wanted to see how much damage I could do to him. And honestly, it worked out well on him too. Even with stouter resistances, a lot of HP, and a high attack, I'm able to get in some headshots, some bleed procs, and do a lot of damage to this big guy who's usually very tough. It was nice to see him go down on the second try. He did, I think, one-shot me on the first try, or he did a lot of damage, probably because of the vigor there, but I wasn't too worried about it. Went in the second time, was able to kill him. By the way, enemies that are unsuspecting, this was mentioned before with the shackles, but generally speaking, if they're slow to get up and attack you or you can get the jump on them, they stand no chance against this build. It completely obliterates them in those circumstances. It just does so much damage and so much stagger very quickly that the damage is just, it's so good that you don't even have to worry about it. The odds of them even getting in a hit are going to be low because you're just going to get staggered, hit like crazy, and beaten. And honestly, it's an awesome way to destroy a lot of the field bosses and stuff in Elden Ring. And as far as mob control goes, obviously this is an awesome weapon, especially with the jump attacks for mob control. They don't really stand a chance. You can shred them with this. It's a lot of fun to use. Super high damage. Any mobs that come up to you, you can even proc Seppuku just on one of them. You don't even have to fully proc it, and you completely obliterate them too. This is a very well-rounded, awesome PvE build that does a lot of damage and a lot of destruction. I'm going to leave 3 videos in the description. That awesome fire build that was done recently, the Bleed Frost if you want to go with that variant of this build. That'll show you how to do it and what stats to do for that, along with a build that'll help you level up very quickly. That's very convenient as well. If you're not subbed, definitely sub to this channel if you love overpowered PvE builds, or if you love From Software games in general and Elden Ring. There's a ton of awesome PvE builds on my channel. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll catch you guys there.